do this, and then they did it, and it's like a what now situation. Yes, they had the player advantage, but that Buzzwole now was coming off a KO timer at like 5 seconds left. They didn't have a window to do anything. Everybody was too low of HP, so it ended up just kind of being a burned Unite move, and I'm not sure they found any value.
Yeah, I actually think it's so funny you brought that up. As the first thing I thought is, if this Blissey revive works out, it was a genius play, right? You're using the Ho-Oh revival on a single Pokemon that, by the way, isn't that far away from coming back already. It didn't have a huge timer on it. Instead of waiting just a little bit longer and maybe bringing back Leaf or maybe bringing back Blaziken, they go for the quick play on Blissey, and unfortunately, it was not the call.
You know, we saw some decent action here. You know, the other thing I'm chewing on here, Spraggles, is that Alolan Raichu.
I know, yeah.
I'm having a hard time seeing what it brought to the table that offered something different than what potentially like a Mewtwo Y could have done if they drafted that earlier, or just some of our other long-range Pokemon. Yeah,
you know, it's really interesting. Part of this was, you know, whether or not they were going to be able to get any huge game-winning fights, and what they were able to do was fight long enough and well enough where there weren't enough members of LG around to contest Ray or contest the scores at the same time. We have the MVP of the game. We have Satake on Zarina. A lot of big plays, and of course, when you have a Clefable in Zarina's pocket, as we saw earlier on broadcast as well, it's really difficult to shut this thing down between the shields it can provide itself, the healing from Clefable, the healing from its own Queenly Majesty on Stomp. Zarina is extremely powerful, and it is loved by a lot of the teams in the TPC regions.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does LG do? They go to the drawing board, right? I do think Zarina was a key problem that they need to try and figure out and contend with. And quite honestly, they're fortunate enough that they have one of the have a very strong Zarina player themselves, an Overlord, of course. So, you know, sometimes you ban it by proxy because you picked it, and you try and force them maybe to be on Blaziken, something a little less comfortable, a little less self-sustaining, and then you commit to a plan there. I do think there's some clever choices Luminosity can make here. We're just going to see what those are. Reject, on the other hand, have to feel good about that game because they played, it was a masterclass.
Yeah, they had an amazing Ray fight. They kept it really close the entire time, and they made the exact right call when they had the amount of pressure that they could put on top and bottom goal zone. They knew the scoreline was so close that that one little score could push them over the edge. They also continued to put points on the board after that. As we see our bans right here, you just talked about it. Zarina banned out here by Luminosity. Now we have a first pick, Suicune.
Suicune's terrific. You and I have been touting this Pokemon for a long time now, even after the nerfs. Looking and just taking in what these choices that Luminosity has target bans, and they're saying you can have every other piece of firepower you want. We just don't want to contend with these two. Fine. Let's see how they handle it from here on out and where Reject goes.
So we have the target ban, but then we have sort of the pick the other way, right? They were saying we don't want to deal with Blaziken again. We do not want to see Overlord on this thing in another match, so we're going to take it away. Slash quickly grabbing that Ho-Oh, and it looks like Trainer is deciding that Leafeon looks good again. I got to say, the start of last match, pretty rough for Trainer on Leafeon, which is not what you want out of Leafeon. Sure, they left it alone. It was hard to fight a Buzzwole alone as this Leafeon, but at the same time, a lot of the reason you pick a Pokemon like this is because of the early pressure it creates, and it's a little unfortunate that they weren't able to take advantage of that at all.
Yeah, I mean, this pick right here, this Blastoise is something you and I have just not been huge fans of. I'm looking forward to Reject making me a believer here because every time we've seen it on broadcast, it's felt underwhelming. But if you can corner Overlord into grabbing Lucario, again, it's one of those things that never feels over-impressive, just kind of checks a box.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing here about this Blastoise is I was actually watching Reject games before we came here, and this was one of those Pokemon that I'm also not fully sold on in this meta, but they do make it look great, and the real play with it is the Rapid Spin Hydro Pump. There's an insane amount of disruption that you get from it, and with the build that they have at, I think it's level 9, you're able to get 2 Hydro Pumps in a single Rapid Spin when you have these attacks attack speed items.
Yep.
So you're just barely able to get 2 huge bursts of damage, and it's a huge area of disruption as well, where it pushes multiple members of the enemy team. We're gonna have to see how it plays here in game number 2. And Luminosity, I mean, obviously this is not how they want to finish their day out. Luminosity, your purple team, down here against Reject, your orange team, in a best of 3. If Reject wins this, they are the #1 seed out of their group.
Just to wrap up a conversation point about a spin pump Blastoise, also a decent secure tool.
Yeah.
So they have that in tandem with Blaziken, and you look at the side of Luminosity, and how are they going to be securing things?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. We have Slash getting bullied out of this central area right here. Having to deal with the red buff on the Hoopa is very, very annoying. The slow from those auto attacks might not be able to make it home. We have the X speed. They're trying to actually peel away. What a heads-up play there from Slash. Actually able to avoid that. But look at the Ho-Oh. Chases them down and punishes them.
I mean, very well done. It was a long effort, obviously, but they got the prize they were looking for.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's what they want out of a Hoopa. You give it the red buff for a reason, right? And it delivered on the task at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. As we take a look here at the bottom path, we had Otter on this Suicune. We have Curios on the Armarouge. This is a Pokemon that actually had a huge run at NAIC. It felt like Armarouge was massive in that tournament, trying to defend this goal zone right here, but they are getting pushed around. We have the Combuskin coming in with a nice Blaze Kick, picking up a KO, but here comes that Leafeon.
They needed to get at least something there, right? They put the pressure on. They were able to stem the tide a little bit. That's what ultimately was important. Mewtwo still hanging out. Curios has yet to evolve, and we know this poor little Char Cadet, well, it's not getting much done. And sorry, I didn't realize you were doing things. And for those of you at home, you don't need to know what those are. And it definitely wasn't a kissy face to somebody taking his picture right now, which I will do.
I do want to point out that we have both been blowing kissy faces at a photographer during the start of this match, which is not what we're supposed to be doing. They're looking for candid casting shots as we head towards this fight here in the middle. Nice big KO on the Armarouge. They're going to push forward towards Otter. The Blaziken moving in. There's the overheat. Living on a prayer right now. Otter in a lot of trouble getting the freeze, but the heavy slam picks up that KO.
Yeah, that was all but written in stone there. That was an easy knockout once that big overheat hit on Otter. Now they're trying to find value in other places of the map, and that is something I mentioned the previous game, but something worth touching on again here. These top teams may be getting beat down in these team fights, but they stay on top of the task at hand, which is trying to keep at least the score line close and getting experience in that way. Here we go. Luminosity pushing forward 3v2. Snorlax makes it a balanced 3v3. Overheat doesn't catch anybody. Satake thinking they're stepping forward. Haruto, on the other hand, taking a lot of pain from Trainers. Trainers going to get some points in, and Trainers hopefully going to go knock out a Wartortle.
Yeah, and they do. You know, Blastoise very bad early. Leafeon is obviously incredible. As we peel down towards this fight, we have Satake just ripping through Reg Ice right here, waiting for their cooldowns. They're ready to go. Easy, secure. However, the top path is being taken over by Luminosity. We have Lucario not moving down to the bottom path really at all. Leafeon staying there as well, making sure they can get all of their stacks. And now they're putting pressure on this top path. You see Overlord on a Pokemon that used to be one of their signatures, trying to score in this top path, but actually able to make it out there with extreme speed.
Yep, E-Speed, a very fun version of Lucario to watch. We need to see it get value this game, Spraggles. We really do.
Yeah, you know, this is one of those Pokemon that got buffed, I want to say 3 or 4 tournaments ago, and you would see teams pick it up here or there, and I was wondering if anyone was going to give it a real shot rather than just going, I didn't get the all-rounder I wanted, I'm going to lean back into the old faithful, right? We'll see what LG can do with it here.
I will say, this little Hoopa has been annoying. Pabone always getting in and just kind of couple more points, nickel and diming Luminosity a little bit, and there's another 5-banger right there for them, as they might have to pay for this insolence as they went for another stack.
Overlord right now using the Unite move to try to win this fight, but just kind of egoing them in that central area as we have multiple members of LG now pushing towards this goal zone. Might get pushed back here by Satake on this Blaziken, looking to steal someone with the Blaze Kick, but no, LG peels away from this fight. Mewtwo is Mega, but maybe not the best time for it. There aren't a ton of targets here.
Yep, and there's Pavone. They're actually going to close the goal zone out. They're going to limit Luminosity's field here and force them to retreat to a T2. Up top, though, we've got 40 points going in, and Overlord's going to be too late in stopping it. Level 11 Blaziken, level 10 Lucario.
Yeah, Lucario here, you know, it can brawl pretty well, but Blaziken with its combos feels like it kind of has Lucario's number a bit, unless there are multiple targets around for Lucario to bounce between, right, with the extreme speed. And without that, I think Overlord has to peel away. We have Slash once again invading the central area here of Reject, not able to steal anything away, but that pressure is important. It just constantly stresses your opponents.
All right, we've got some Unite moves to use here. We'll see how Luminosity plays it. Tons of damage there. And moving back as the Snorlax trying to pin Otter against the wall was almost successful. Portal is down, Heavy Slam is there, Power Nap doesn't go for the reset. Regice is getting shredded. However, Luminosity have more players around it. No, they kind of get bullied out. The Spin Pump is going active right now and finds themselves an Overlord. Big Mewtwo Y Unite with the Hydro Typhoon, and all of a sudden, Reject is looking to take more bodies.
Yeah, the Caster Curse in full effect as Blastoise has an amazing fight with its Unite move that, of course, is incredible, and it had huge moments with that Spin Pump right there. Luminosity behind on the scoreboard. Level-wise, things are pretty close. We got a couple of 12s on the side of Reject here. Reject, once again, in control. Not exactly where you expect Luminosity to be, but this is one of the best teams from possibly the best region in the world, Japan.
Now, I mean, Luminosity is trying to keep their eye on the prize, right? They understand that they're behind in these team fights, but they can try and figure out this score lead. They have a T1 still available in the lower lane, and of course, getting the Regieleki helps stress them out. Look at all that Eos energy right there, too. So if they can get this to land, that's a bunch of easy scores.
Yeah, you know, if Slash can bother two of them up here, there's a possibility for Luminosity to make a play. It looks like they are going to peel away from this goal zone. Hoopa heading down to the bottom path, just leaving the Blastoise here on the top path as Luminosity is going to siege this goal zone.
They need to use these Unites now. Having Blastoise occupied is a great opportunity to try to get on this goal pad or get some knockouts. However, it's Slash that's hung out to dry as the rest of LG wants nothing of it.
Yeah, LG peels away. The fight is over. Luminosity not able to push towards this goal zone. Great defense there by Reject as they're going to be up by about 50 points heading towards Rayquaza here. A minute until Ray. And look at this. We talked about it before. Here's Pavone looking to make a sneaky play in the bottom half. Once again, just putting pressure on these goal zones.
I mean, they're almost playing this Hoopa like a Sableye. Just nickel and diming, getting points. Slash kind of figuring out what was up. And just out of there in time is Pavone.
And here we go. Multiple members of LG looking to make a sneaky play right here. They're heading towards the top path. We don't have Reject here. They're trying to port through. Now they're scoring, but here comes Reject to defend.
How much of LG can get out now? Because the pressure is there from Reject, and they're on the chase. Otter is going to get pinned against the wall. They get knocked out. But you can think, is the score lead worth trading a lower level support Pokemon? I think so. We've got Rayquaza on the horizon, a fast game.
Well, here goes Overlord into the entirety of Reject, just ripping through them right here until Ray is now on the board.
Well, here we go. They kind of engaged and peeled right back. They didn't find the target they wanted, but they forced out the Hoopa Unite.
And here we go. Rayquaza is now getting chipped up by these two squads. The Leafeon Unite move, and they move in.
The Emerald two-step is there. Big Mewtwo Y Unite doesn't really catch any targets, but Slash goes down before they can use their Unite move. Hydro Typhoon, eject, reposition, Heavy Slam, follow-up, knockout. Overlord is one of the only ones standing, finding themselves on the side with Trainer. They're trying to E-speed through, they're gone, and blink through the portal as the rest of the Reject, ready to reject the thoughts of LG winning this game. Heavy Slam on the backside, they need to separate Trainer. Hoopa and Snorlax are on the job. Rayquaza's right there, Trainer gets nicked and stunned, and Reject takes Ray, which means Reject is eating those American Hundo burgers in our own kitchen.
Wow, Reject absolutely rinsing them, and that's what a Hydro Pump Blastoise will do. The points now raining in, as we like to say quite a bit here on broadcast. 450-223. Luminosity fully getting caught out. ending their day on an 0-2 loss. This is not how LG wants to start this tournament.
No, not at all. They do find themselves in tomorrow, but they've got a whole night to think about this one. Reject really felt like they had a better grasp of what was happening in this game. Reject felt like they had no fear and no question marks when it came to what Luminosity was going to throw at them. Reject looking powerful.
Reject just having such an incredible match. What a catch on Ho-Oh. It goes down, and now there is nothing that Luminosity can do. Just the falling of the dominoes in that fight as one member after another of LG makes their way back to the Pokemon Center. A nice fight here on this goal zone, but with only 10 seconds left and hundreds of points separating these two teams. Luminosity, with their first game on the main stage, is not looking like your future champion.
No, not at all, not at all. And the caster curse continues, as I mentioned, these three players that are two-time world champions, when they're playing together on the world stage, they have not dropped a match.
Yeah.
They have dropped a map, but not a match. And now we just saw them take a huge L against a team that they're gonna have to contend with tomorrow, because Reject looks just about as good as any other team we've watched today.
You know, there was a question as to what the best team out of Japan was, and Zeta showed up here today and looked a little rocky. So did Insomnia. But Reject, on the other hand,
No question.
showing up here today looking fantastic. You can see why they are the #1 seed out